every time. Something's been changed. It always works. Everything always works.
I like that makes you sad somehow.
Live from your collective sighs of anxiety. Oh.
That's really existentially depressing.
It's a Business Pants Friday show here at April 24th Studios featuring analyst Matt Moscardi. On today's weekly wrap-up, a CEO turnover bonanza.
Really?
So many that I had to leave one out. A Texas bank hates Texas.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising. And white guys continue fighting for other white guys. That's not as
that's less
surprising.
Confusing. That just seems to be the norm, yeah.
What is it about white guys? Why are they only fighting for themselves? What is that? Our show today is being sponsored by Free Flow Analytics and freeflowanalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power connections performance for free.
Woo! All right, we got a lot to get to, actually.
You want to just go?
Usually there's some like preamble here.
You want to just start?
Like,
go. Just play me in. Play me in.
All right, let's do it.
There's a good old-fashioned stories of the week for me. I picked just 4 old-fashioned, I would call these ESG stories, really. Corporate governance, I don't know.
It wasn't as outragey a week as it has been.
Yeah, unless you read the actual news.
No. I have been reading the actual news, and everything's a shit show. But like,
it's an ongoing shit show.
I feel like there's not a new shit show in the last week. You know?
Well, I mean, they fired the Secretary of the Navy. That seems disconcerting.
I don't know. That guy seemed like make believe to begin with. He was like some billionaire Trump donor who had no Navy experience.
But the new guy was recently complaining that a city in California was being taken over by witchcraft.
Well,
is that better?
That is probably equal. That's what I mean. It's equal. It's the same.
I mean, he wishes.
Like the guy before,
I wish.
The administration of meritocracy put the Secretary of the Navy was a guy who'd never even been on a boat, right? Like, so whatever. Yeah.
By the way, the right wing witchcraft, witches, that's just code for women, you realize.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't that what we say? I thought that's what we said in the 1800s. Yeah.
Here we go. Apple names John Ternus as CEO to replace Tim Cook, who will become chair. Now, but here's the headline you're actually seeing mostly. Apple CEO Tim Cook is stepping down. That's what you...
Correct. No, yeah, he's not.
But I applaud CNBC for getting it right. Tim Cook is not leaving. He's staying as chair. John Ternus taking over. The former swimming champ who's been at Apple for many, many years. I don't know.
What does former swimming champ have anything to do with anything? Why is that even
Fortune?
In the
That's
headline?
what Fortune does. I didn't even investigate that one.
I mean,
you know what? He's more of a he has more of a Bob Iger look. He's got a big square jaw. He's like he's got that look.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Do you think Tim Cook picked him because he's like
I don't know,
kind of cute?
I think that what they're saying is that it's a hardware decision. I don't know. He's head of hardware. I don't know. I don't care. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this, but I will say it's not surprising that a company like Apple would once again pick an internal CEO. As we keep pointing out, it's goddamn expensive to hire external CEOs.
It's hard. Yeah.
And why would a company like this need to go to do anything else? I don't know. Here's the counterpoint, though, I wanted to make about, and I don't know if you have anything to say about Tim Cook eventually stepping sideways into executive chair.
Yeah, sideways.
Let's not forget what that means. He's still going to run the agenda of the oversight board that looks over all of company management, including CEO, which means
he's paid as an executive.
And he's not that old, right, Tim Cook? He's not that old.
No, he's not like... Yeah, he's not like American board member old. No.
So if something within the first 18 months, if Ternus is can't handle it, Tim Cook will come back because, as we already know, Trump loves him.
I know. There's a lot of discussion about Trump.
Trump said this week that Tim Cook called to kiss his ass earlier this year. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
He handed him a platter.
He did kiss his ass.
I mean, he did literally basically do that.
Yeah, which was sad. Here's the counterpoint I want to say, and here's the CEO story I didn't pick, is that there's also a CEO change at Best Buy. Best Buy taps insider Jason Bonfig as new CEO. Now, that is surprising because Best Buy seems to kind of suck, although I like my local Best Buy, but everyone hates Best Buy. It doesn't seem to do that well. The headline says Corey Berry steps down. Now, she's actually stepping down. The lady doesn't get to keep her chair. She doesn't get to keep her board seat. She's actually leaving the company. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, probably because, like, in 2020, do you remember Corey Berry was investigated for like sexually harassing, or like a workplace romance or something like that? No, it matters for the women. That matters for the women. They can't make that person an executive chair.
But she's actually leaving. So that's the first story. Anything more to say about? I mean, we're not going to add anything. I don't think. Oh, I will say Arthur Levinson. You talked about Arthur Levinson at some point in your life.
Yeah, in the last Proxy Countdown, I think. Yeah.
He's been the chair since 2011, I think. He is now taking over as lead independent director, which makes no sense. So now you're going to have Tim Cook and Art Levinson running the board.
Yeah, right? That guy's been there since like 1997 or some.
Oh, has he been longer? He's only been chair since 2011, so he's been there forever.
Yeah, I think he's been there forever. He was long, was part of the Steve Jobs, boards.
This is what might ultimately be Apple's failing. Not that they'll ever fail. I'm not suggesting they're going to fail, but it could that they keep the dinosaurs around. I don't know. I mean, you don't need Tim Cook and Arthur Levinson. Maybe you add people who know about new things, because everyone's suggesting that the reason why there's a CEO reckoning this year is because some of the older dudes don't really get AI and they're kind of stepping aside, or maybe they don't want to deal with it, and I don't blame them. But why keep Art and Tim? I don't know. Do you need both?
Why are you saying and? You don't need either of them.
That's true, but I'm just starting. I'm starting with one.
For?
I'm just starting with one. Yeah, I don't know. Right.
The only thing I have to add to this story is, can we have more headlines that talk about John Turnus, the time he played ping pong at Penn? Because I don't understand these headlines that are like former swimming champ. He's 51 years old. I'm 47, so he's only a couple years older than me, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking about the time he competed in college.
Oh, it's college. I thought maybe it was the Olympics.
What are we doing? Even if it was the Olympics and he competed in the Olympics, you compete in the Olympics when you're like 21. It was 30 years ago. He's basically done nothing but hardware and mechanical engineering since. And we're talking about that time he went for won a swim meet. How is that relevant to the headline?
I'm going to take the counterpoint on this one, and I'm going to say once a swimming champion, always a swimming champion.
Oh, okay. I take it back.
Yeah. Good for John Turnus. I guess there's nothing else to say about him. The next story, next CEO change. Lululemon names former Nike exec Heidi O'Neill as CEO. Now, right off the bat, and I will say, as the counterpoint, this did not happen at Best Buy. Right off the bat, we're seeing headlines. Lululemon CEO pick Heidi O'Neill faces skeptical Wall Street. And Lululemon shares dive on new CEO pick as investors fear she may not have chops to save struggling company. I mean, this woman is credited with transforming basically the entire women's business at Nike into a global juggernaut. And I was just reading reports that Caitlin Clark's sneaker, I mean, I know this is just one little anecdote, but her Nike sneaker was the number one sneaker worn by all NBA male athletes last year. I mean, I don't know. It seems that Heidi O'Neill, who's been at Nike for 25 years, she's done product creation, brand strategy, marketing, global operations. I mean, come on, really? This is where you're going. Before you even analyze the situation, you're going right for her. They didn't go after what's his name, Jason Bonfig, and their Best Buy stock isn't exactly going up. They're not going after him. And you look at Bonfig. No offense, he looks like a dope.
I mean, if we're honest,
yes,
the founder Chip Wilson,
Mr. Misogynist, and
what his career was, he worked in a snowboard shop. like when he started, and he ended up making basically women's yoga pants.
Probably
what chops exactly are they talking about?
Yeah,
the woman who has a long storied history career at Nike, one of the premier brands in the world.
I mean, it's probably
making
the
and
brand.
selling women's sportswear, does not have a long enough, storied enough career when compared to, say, Chip Wilson, who once sold, a snowboard to somebody. What are we doing?
Now, here's the funny thing about Chip Wilson is that he's just constantly angry these days. And, of course, he's such a baby that he hasn't said anything yet about the new hire. And I always thought this was about control, but I'm now realizing that, and this is going to, I guess this will sort of gel nicely with your stories coming up for Ask Holiest, but he's just mad at ladies. Because I want to tell you something remarkable at Lululemon, if you care about this stuff. Well, first of all, I always yell about this. 75% of Lululemon's customers are women, right? And we see a lot of companies where this is extreme, but we see a lot of companies that sit in industries where women are customers or they're decision makers, and they still have no women in charge of anything. But give Lululemon credit. 7 of 11 board members are women, including the new CEO, including the chair, Martha Morfitt. The committees, the audit committee, 2 of 3 are women, including the chair. The nomination committee is 60% women. The pay committee, majority women, including the chair. Also the CFO, the chief merchandising officer, blah, blah, blah. There's like 4 other executives. I mean, Lululemon, if you want to invest in companies where women are firmly in control, this is your company. So this is why Chip is so mad, I guess.
Well, Chip
he's emasculated by all that. He's poor Chip.
Chip said on the record to actual reporters that Lululemon wasn't a brand for quote everyone. You don't want certain customers coming in, he said. He said, quote, whole diversity and inclusion thing he didn't like. And he thought that the people in the ads who are basically diverse people and, let's say a wide weight range of humans.
Okay, so that's what he said.
Looked unhealthy, sickly, and not inspirational. and if you like, this is
despite the fact that all women seem to wear yoga pants across the world at this point.
You want to know how horrific it is that like women can't get out from under this? Like if you look at pictures of Heidi O'Neill, she looks like a full-figured woman, a regular woman, not some like uber
Is that why
athlete.
He's been silent? Yeah.
Like, do you think Chip Wilson is sitting there being like, we just hired a fatty, I'm upset by that? Like,
no, he's probably like, why would we hire the president of consumer product and brand overseeing Nike's global consumer and product engine? What does she know?
What does she know that,
right?
Like that I didn't learn in a snowboard shop when I was 17.
That's the second story of the week. I'm waiting. We're waiting, Chip. What do you have to say? He's. I love how the reports are. He's silent so far. He hasn't said anything. What a jerk. Okay, here we go. Oil giant BP suffer. Okay, this is the headline. Oil giant BP suffers shareholder revolt over climate transparency at tense annual meeting. It goes on to say that they suffered a revolt over the election of a new chair and resolutions that included dropping some climate disclosure obligations. Now, we talked about this in the past, that these 2 resolutions were basically trying to erase decisions made by shareholders in the past, and they both needed to get up to a 75% threshold of support to pass, and they didn't even get majority. They both hit 47%, okay? So I guess it's a statement. I guess it's a bit of a revolt, although let's pull back and look at the bigger picture here. There were 24 resolutions up at the vote at BP.
Yeah, I don't think they read the resolutions. I think they voted against all of them.
Now, last year, this revolt against the chair they're talking about, last year the chair, Helge Lund, got 24% vote against his chair vote. This year, the big revolt against the new chair, Albert Manifold, was 18% against.
Oh.
And all the other directors, I'm looking at them right now, 97%, 96%, blah, 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 blah. Like I don't know. I wouldn't call this a revolt.
You investors,
Yeah.
You know that the board is the one who chose the resolutions that you didn't like.
Especially at a non-U.S. company.
I mean, there's no one else. And why do you think that the same board should be qualified to stay in their board seat if they do things you don't like?
It's weird.
I don't understand it. It'd be like if everyone in Congress, if you wanted some thing out of Congress and everyone you elected voted against that thing, and then you voted for them and got angry at them at the same time. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is the point.
It's completely irritating. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's more than irritating.
I mean, listen, if you're a fan of both of our shows, please listen to the Proxy Countdown this week, where we're going to cover in depth, like at Adobe, for instance, they nearly voted down pay, 49.5% no. And then the pay committee averaged about 8% no.
I don't understand.
Bank of New York Mellon, 45% no on pay. They average about 5% no. Only at Broadcom do they kind of get it right. 34% no on pay. And pay committee chair Harry Yu got 26% no. So that was aligned.
That's close. But I just
what the hell? What the hell?
I'm just fascinated by the fact that we think we're
trying.
Only in this sphere, we will happily trade athletes that underperform. We will happily, vote against a congressperson or a political figure.
Well, what about a coach? Like, a coach could lose their job over a bad decisions in a playoff series or something.
We literally fire coaches who are in the finals and make one bad decision.
Single decision.
We will go to great extremes to show how angry we are about not winning.
To be angry, yes.
Except in the corporate democracy,
right,
where we fundamentally think that it's aggressive to vote against people.
Because it's a protected class. Yeah, it's a protected class. But there you go. I don't know. I mean, and this ruins our narrative too, because when you have people like CNBC calling this a revolt, it's like
that doesn't ruin it. That doubles down on the existing.
I guess, but all right.
I mean, that's what engine number one was. Remember, engine number one was a shareholder revolt at Exxon, where they put three directors on the board, and those directors were oil executives.
I know, but
right?
I know. The thing about that one that's irritating is that was a mini revolt, except that people they chose were pointless.
The whole thing was everything's pointless.
It was shocking it went that far, honestly. Anyway, the fourth story of the week, keeping in a very kind of not boring, but old-fashioned stories. I like that none of these are politically angry. Netflix, although this one tweaked me. Netflix authorizes $25 billion share buyback.
Wait a minute.
$25 billion. Yeah.
They just raised the rates to increase their revenue. Where did they get $25 billion from?
Thank you for providing the perfect segue for me. So it's populist math time. $25 billion. Netflix employs roughly 16,000 people. Is that right? Did I get the right information? This doesn't seem like a lot.
That sounds like a lot. Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
So that they could have given every employee a bonus of $1.5 million, which really, that would have been a nice... I mean,
that's a big bonus. That's a nice holiday season.
Okay, but why not? I mean, why not treat your workers right?
I mean, they could have given them all a $500,000 bonus and still had plenty of money left over for
Or they could have, conversely, they could have hired 250,000 new people at $100,000 salary. I mean, they could have anyway.
There's a lot of talent out there. They all got fired for AI. Yeah.
Now, here's where my populist math suffered a little bit. Now, I was thinking okay, what about a dividend to their customers? What about a little bit of a kickback? But I
like kickbacks.
They have 325 million subscribers globally. That's way too many. And so that would only work out to, if I did my math right, it's only $77 per person, which is something. But
that's great.
Okay. People will take it, but they just raised the price to $30-something. So they could lower they could stop that. I don't know. I don't know if $77 is going to thrill people, but it's something. But how about this final one, the social impact? Estimates, including from HUD, that's the U.S. government agency, suggests that ending homelessness in the U.S. Ending homelessness in the U.S. would cost roughly $20 to $30 billion. So right there.
They could end the homelessness.
Imagine the goodwill. okay,
Everyone would get a Netflix subscription.
Netflix puts out the press release, we're doing a buyback, and then 2 days later, like, you know what? Actually, no. Fuck these buybacks. We're going to end homelessness. You know the thing that all you babies complain about all the time? You don't care about the people. You don't like how it inconveniences you seeing homeless people. We're going to help those people. We're going to get them homes.
Wow.
All right.
That
anyway.
would be good. That would be good. So here's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm going to beat a dead horse ish.
Yeah. 25 billion. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead. I forgot to tell you the impact on shareholders, but I can do that after your point.
Well, the rate raise, they said they needed to spend an extra $2 billion on content. And so they were raising the rates in order to spend that money on content for us to watch, right? Mm-hmm. They raised the rates by $3.9 billion. We did this in a show 4 weeks ago.
But why are you making us pay? Why can't you just do better at what you're doing? You're already making us pay a lot.
But listen to the numbers.
Yeah.
They raised the rates so that they earn another $3.9 billion. They said they only needed to spend $2 billion on content, so they pocketed $1.9 billion. But why do you have to raise the rates at all when you somehow have $25 billion to give back to shareholders?
$25 billion.
Why? That's you know the math there. That's almost 10 times what you needed for the content. You didn't have to raise rates at all. You could have just made the content. $2 billion. If you had announced a $23 billion buyback instead of $25 billion buyback, who's upset? And then you didn't raise rates.
That's true. I didn't even think of it that way. You could have just done 23.
I mean, like, what is the fucking difference? It's fucking sad. Nuts. You basically just made me pay as a Netflix subscriber directly to shareholders because you weren't willing to fucking just spend the money you had.
Yeah, you made us pay, and you continued having homelessness in the United States. You did both. Now, here's the simple math of this if you don't understand share buyback. So if Netflix successfully retires about 6.4% of shares, right, and then the market stays the same, their stock price should mathematically rise about 7% to compensate for the reduced supply. This is the math that I'm being told by the smarter people here. Okay. Now, if the stock price jumps just 7%, here is the on-paper wealth jump for their bigger shareholders. Vanguard pockets $2.5 billion, BlackRock $2.1 billion, Fidelity $1.4 billion, and even Reed Hastings, a single dude, pockets $140 million for a decision that he is responsible for because he is still the chair and founder of the board. I mean, that is ludicrous, honestly ludicrous. Anyway, this is the stuff going on. You want to vote?
Oh shit!
I like good old fashioned ESG stories.
I'm not going to vote for John Turnus.
John Turnus, even the name. Who would vote for any of that? Yeah, John Turnus.
I'm sorry. Everybody covered it for a million stories, and it's so disingenuous because Tim Cook's just staying there, right? It's nothing.
The whole thing is just dumb. The whole thing is this. One of these outlets had a saying Apple needs a new cowboy. And there's a picture of Tim Cook with a cowboy hat on and turn. It's just what are you doing? What are you doing? They sell addiction.
Yeah, they sell a device that we're all addicted to.
That schools across the world now are like, shit, these are so bad. We have to start banning these. This is how much we hate this.
Handheld supercomputers that allow you to put dog ears on your photos. I'm not going to vote for a BP because it wasn't a shareholder revolt. It was and also it's a UK based company where everybody is different anyway, right? The expectations about the environment and shareholders are all different anyway.
True.
Which leaves me with Netflix and Lululemon. I'm going with Lululemon
because
I like
that.
It works with what I'm going to talk about later anyway.
Good. That's the only point. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah,
I think you're right, though.
Self-referential. All right.
And notice that once again.
Sorry, you got played off.
Yeah.
You got played off.
But I'm going to stick this one in here. Once again, this should be the only show you go to for your business news because as everyone is obsessed with a nothing happening at Apple, right?
Swimming. Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Swimmy Turnus.
We've known about succession plan for a while. He's not going anywhere. there's no one covering Lululemon. I mean, they're not covering this. I mean, they're just obsessed with one. Okay, anyway, let's go.
Good list. I've got 2.
I have 1. I'll go first. Let you wrap it up. Lufthansa. This is one of many headlines in this realm, making me absolutely thrilled. Lufthansa cuts 20,000 flights to save fuel amid Iran war price surge. This is the greatest. This is like the best thing since COVID, and it's a shame that war had to do this, but I'll take it.
Now, when I read this, I did read the story that United CEO, who I can never remember that. Scott Kirby, I think, is United CEO.
Kirby, yeah, and then Dan Bastian at Delta, and who else?
Yeah,
anyway.
and then Isom at Southwest, maybe. But was basically said in their earnings call the other day that when the war ends, United has no plans to reduce the price.
Why?
They basically don't
this?
give because they're going to fucking pocket the difference.
Right.
Like when prices come down, what they're seeing is that people will buy it no matter what because you got to fly to see grandma, right?
Just like Netflix, there is this strange addiction to air travel too.
It's like at some point, the American consumer has to wake up and say, we don't have to do these things. We don't have to keep spending the money.
You can explore other things around you.
I would be less poor and broke all the time if I didn't fucking keep my Netflix subscription when they raise the rates, or keep flying when I don't need to, right? Like, it'd be great. But no, that's not what we do yet.
What do you have?
All right, I got 2. This headline: The Onion says it has again struck a deal to take over InfoWars.
Wait, okay, we covered this years ago. So first of all, I didn't really know The Onion still exists, so I'm glad about that. But second of all, what happened? They tried to buy all of Alex Jones' weird content.
They tried to buy the
judge said no.
And the judge said, then there was InfoWars says it wasn't a fair auction, and then it went back and it got taken away, and now they actually have it.
Why did
Alex Jones lost his mind online?
Why do they get to ask for fairness in a court of law when they're they pretend the most heinous things happen?
Well, this is the irony, right? Like they love a good court of law when it's not pointed at them,
right?
But now the Onion should have InfoWars, and Alex Jones hates it. So you got to like that.
Do we know what they're doing with that content?
They're going to make a satirical version of a conservative news outlet. Like,
isn't that just the Trump administration? I mean, we need that.
It's really what are you satiring, right? Like imagine this is satire, right? Guy who's never been in Navy or knows how to drive ship runs Navy, right? Like it's like
richest man in the world, CEO, raises chainsaw to say he's gonna fire hardworking bureaucrats. Yeah.
Fox and Friends host should leads Department of Defense, right?
Well,
what are we doing?
Look, we're clearly not at the stature of The Onion, but this is what we ran into here. For those of you who might be new listeners to us, we used to have a whole slew of satiric
it was all
content.
Satire, yeah.
But we kind of ran into this existential wall of how it's become its own thing. I mean, with people like Elon Musk and everything that goes on, and Sam Altman, whatever. It's like, how do you satire something that's already horrible satire? It's tough. It's tough.
Well, the next one is not satire. This one's real. Texas Capitol stays incorporated in Delaware after shareholders reject Dexit vote.
This is nuts.
All right. So for anybody who doesn't know what the Dexit vote is,
which is probably most people.
It's most corporations are actually incorporated in Delaware, and
which is already very corporate friendly.
Because it's for a long time. It's been very corporate friendly. Shareholders like it because the laws are very clear, but it's easy to incorporate. It's fairly cheap. It's just a place that everyone incorporates. In fact, Delaware's basically made their name in the corporate world.
It's the only thing that happened to Delaware, right?
Yeah, it's it. It's just like one office, like a guy who just stamps corporate documents all day long. Well, other states have basically said
Speaking of Musk.
Musk had a ruling go against him in Delaware about his pay, and they said his pay was basically ill-gotten because they didn't disclose these deep ties between
Let's not call
Musk
it pay. I don't know. I mean, is that pay? Getting billions of dollars, is that pay? I don't know what that is.
I mean,
I hear you.
Let's make it technical and say
pay.
But after that, Musk launched a no one should be in Delaware anymore, and because he has so much money, Texas just listened to him.
Well, and because he bought
Nevada,
a social media company and can broadcast his terrible voice,
stupid thoughts
constantly.
And so everybody, basically it was a rush to the bottom. Then Texas was saying like, oh, we're going to strip most shareholder rights out and make it really friendly for corporations. And companies started moving. Well, in this case, just gets us to this headline.
Yeah.
The company in question is a company called Texas Capital.
Right.
And Texas Capital shareholders said, no, you cannot reincorporate in Texas. Texas Capital rejected domestication to Texas. I love that.
Yeah. Not only that, but they there was another proposal trying to raise the ownership threshold to submit a shareholder proposal. They wanted to put it all the way up to 3% or $1 million, basically saying you have to be a rich share owner to.
That's the actual Texas rule.
And they said no to that.
So what Texas Capital wanted to do is actually put itself in Texas. When you read the actual proxy, it shows the difference between Texas and Delaware. One of which is that shareholder threshold to bring a shareholder proposal, and they basically said, oh, it's fine between Texas and Delaware, but then see proposal 5, which was the one that was but we also want to make it not fine.
I mean, you got to thank Texas Capital Bank shares because their proxy should be a textbook because you're right. They compare everything about this. I mean, they lay out everything about the differences between Texas and Delaware, begging, how they unanimously support the blah, 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 blah. But, shareholders also rejected. There was a procedural vote, a proposal saying that if we don't get what we want from these first votes, give us more time to convince you. No, see, I'm serious.
I didn't see that.
And they said no to that 70%. Yeah,
it was a funny. I mean, they actually in the proxy they said we reached out to 60% of our shareholder shares
by money,
held,
right? Yeah,
and they were very happy with our idea about Texas. Well, clearly not. Clearly not.
Yeah.
So I love that. That was
that one. That's obviously the winner for
That's
voting.
definitely the winner. Let's go to assholes.
Oh.
All right. I want to move quickly through the assholes this week because nothing's new. Nothing's new about these assholes. First up, white guy victimhood. Obviously,
this is new.
This is new territory for us. But I saw this headline that you pulled. I can't even read it out loud. This is a quote. The disfavored groups, number one, obviously, would be white males. Ron DeSantis is still signing anti-DEI legislation.
So he might be right if he's listening to this show.
Ron DeSantis, he said, quote, the disfavored groups, number one, obviously would be white males.
Right.
So I had to do some math because white males are 70% of all governors.
So you're just talking about not just men. You're just talking about white men.
I'm talking about white men, not men.
Wow.
This is specifically
Think
white
about
men.
that. Yeah.
They are 70% of Congress.
That's bad. Because governors are one thing, but Congress is literally supposed to be a representation of the population of the people. Yeah, that's
right.
That's
70% of Congress, 60% of U.S. corporate boards.
Okay.
And 31% of the U.S. population.
It's that high. I didn't realize it was that high. 31% white dudes.
They have double the representation in every powerful body in the entire country.
Well, you're forgetting one other key stat. If I can do that quick math here, 46 divided by 47, they have 98% of every U.S. presidency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barack, I know Barack ruined it, but
I mean, Barack did break it.
Yeah, but still a dude. If you look closely.
I mean, like if you listen to Rush Limbaugh, you should count him 50%, right? Like as a white guy, right? Shouldn't
that's
you?
true. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But here's what I realized when I was doing this assholiest.
I'm going to redo my math. Yeah.
It actually gave me a little bit of hope.
Go ahead.
Because I realized what percentage of DEI programs, Ron DeSantis is signing anti-DEI legislation. What percentage of DEI programs were implemented or designed by white men?
Oh, interesting.
If white men have all the power.
Oh, that's right. They represent. So you're telling me that. Well, and what you didn't tell me was you told me 60% of U.S. boards were white men. What about the CEOs and chairs?
90% of CEOs of the Fortune 500 are white guys.
Yeah, that's not good. That's bad.
But that's where it gets fascinating to me, right? The DEI programs that we're signing legislation against were all built and implemented. They had to be built and implemented by the white guys who have and had the power. So when we read the story, like last week, we talked about White House says DEI policies cost the U.S. economy by promoting unqualified managers.
White House.
The White House said that.
White House.
Yeah, the White House. That's right. Doesn't that mean if you take away DEI policies cost U.S. economy, forget the fact that literally it's horrible math. It's make-believe. All the metrics are stupid and make-believe. Forget all that. Let's just say that means white men who implemented DEI policies are bad for the economy. Aren't we saying that? Aren't we actually saying that that white men who run everything, who implemented DEI did it clearly badly because they're white guys. They don't know anything about inclusion and diversity anyway to begin with. Aren't they to blame? Aren't we supposed to get rid of all the white guys who did that? Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Well, you know what it makes me think of is this ongoing idiocy. Donald Trump telling us that the 2020 election was stolen while he was president.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, like the whole thing.
No, but think about it. The U.S. federal election was stolen while he was watching over the U.S. federal election. It's his fault if it's true, which is clearly not. But it's the same thing. What you're saying. You're saying the same thing.
If you are signing anti-DEI legislation and you have been in power in Florida long enough to see DEI actually become a thing, much less, even if I don't focus on you, if I focus on the fact that historically everything is run by white males, then what you're saying is the people disenfranchising white males are white males. That's what you're saying.
How about
because
this?
That's the only way it could be.
How about this? This is almost 24 million people in Florida. Slightly more women than men.
Obviously.
And looking at the racial demographics, only 24.7% of Florida is white men. And this guy is going to bat for white men. Isn't he the governor of the whole state? It's 3/4 not white men. He's fighting. I don't get what they're fighting for.
You could say that the disfavored group is white men and the problem is DEI is if you ignore the fact that the favored group of white men that set the DEI policies in place disfavored the white men, right?
Like the whole thing.
In the end, actually just thinking about this got me to was how painfully we keep arguing on the merits of like DEI and saying like, oh well, like I did this.
No,
too.
we don't.
Like
we don't actually talk about merits
like
and data.
Where they say, we're returning to the meritocracy because of DEI. I go out and I try to build a meritocracy flag for boards of directors.
Yeah.
But like, I was watching the New York Times opinion piece today on where Desiree Fixler was arguing that like DEI is discriminatory and destructive. And I was thinking to myself,
no data to support.
But like the conversation that they had in that piece was all about like the merits of DEI or the lack of merits of DEI. And I was thinking to myself, what is missing from this is the fact that almost every DEI policy was implemented by a white guy.
Well, let's be fair.
Almost every single one.
I mean, isn't basically everything in the history of the U.S. been created
but then
by
how
a white
on earth
guy?
can you say, like, how can you argue the merits of a system that the people who built the system have no incentive to build right or think
Right.
about or execute? It's like I got in an argument on LinkedIn 5 years ago
Yeah.
when people were like, why doesn't BlackRock support more diversity on boards? And I was like, have you seen their portfolio managers? They are 90% white men.
Right.
Why would they support more diversity on boards?
But this is the
What does
major
that
problem
mean?
with this argument is that it's all in feelings world. The whole
feelings.
the whole anti DEI, anti woke world that never presents hard data to you. They refuse and are unable to define merit. They don't give you the numbers of what, other than the wink wink that when white men ran the world, it was better. That's all. But that's all they have.
But this is the problem that we have when people ask like free float and looking at board members to prove that it adds alpha.
Because the burden only goes in one direction.
It only ever goes. You can't prove the negative. I can't prove that DEI is good or bad when the only people who have ever made a DEI program were white men, and the only people to implement it have been white men, and the only people to scrap it have been white men, and the only people measuring it have been white men, and there aren't any like situations in which a non-white man implemented DEI at scale enough to actually have a study that matters. The problem is we're basically studying what white men do about everything.
Yeah.
We were studying what white men do about diversity, what white men think about alpha and boards, what white men think about what the time trains should run, what white men think about AI. Everything is just what a white guy thinks.
But it's an impossible situation anyway, because there's not even enough. Like you talk about 90% of CEOs in the Fortune 500 are white dudes. So we don't even have enough data to support what women could contribute in alpha. That's why I tell people, like, just stop listening to that. So there are times in history where you have to just blow through someone asking you about alpha, someone asking you about, returns. Sometimes you just have to burst through that. Honestly.
I mean,
you're never going to appease them. You're never going to satisfy them.
I was talking to somebody locally about the West Hartford town budget, and they said one of the things they said was, well, we're spending, like a whole bunch of money on this diversity and inclusion office that has no obvious output that increases test scores. And I was like,
test scores?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
First of all, that's not the point of the office. But second of all,
is that what it's there for?
Like, has there ever been a situation where like the entirety of the school board and the administration and the schools themselves are run by people who are non-white men? And if honestly, the answer is no, then so you're defining what the outcome should be as a white man implementing a program about diversity with no knowledge about what the outcome is supposed to be, right? Like, what are we fucking doing? Anyway, all right.
I could keep going with that, but I'm going to censor myself at this point. Let's keep going.
Number 2, white guy manifestos.
Oh, more.
Yeah.
All right, we didn't talk about that. There was a Tech Bro manifesto this week that I didn't even want to. Yes, right. I'm sick of them. But
I know. That's why I'm sick. Palantir published a mini manifesto calling some cultures harmful and middling, and said Silicon Valley has a moral debt to the U.S. is the headline.
Ooh, what does that mean? That sounds like Nazism. What does that mean?
Well, they basically said Silicon Valley should be involved in defense, given how much this country has given them. They should be involved in the defense of this country.
Wait, okay, I'm confused. When he's saying that some cultures are harmful and middling, is he talking about himself? that they're harming the world?
Turns out he did not mention himself.
Because that's actually that's the real perception of what's going on.
Honestly, I read the entire manifesto.
Yeah.
Speaking of man feelings, these tech bros are so insistent that we listen to everything they think.
They have God complexes. That's proven.
Is it God complexes? I feel like they were just never
Narcissism.
listened to as a child. Like no one ever validated them. Like Bobby Sue rejected you at the dance in the middle school. Like you didn't get laid enough in college.
Hey, look, but they get to control the narrative because we talk about all the time in the show about like who the billionaires are now, who control the media companies. Like they get to constantly control the narrative that their statements and opinion matter the most. Like they matter the most.
Why do they feel like so compelled that they get heard?
Because I'm sure there are many books written about their narcissism, right?
Is it narcissism? Because I feel like it's just pure, like it's the economics of rejection and middle school rejection.
You're right, but this culture also celebrates that, like that dominant position in society, that wealth, whatever. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And the media really is run by the same people, so it's like a loop. It's an ongoing loop.
Like he sat down and he wrote a manifesto.
How do you know he sat down?
Well, I don't. You're right. He could have stood up. He could have been hanging upside down when
standing.
He
One of the things I don't mind out of the tech world is I kind of like standing desks. They're kind of cool.
Did they invent that? I didn't know they invented
you could
that.
put a computer on it, so.
Well, here's some of the things he had to say. Post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone.
Okay. That... What?
I just like that in his manifesto,
so there's no punishment... Yeah.
No, forget punishment, forget anything. Why does Alex Karp need to say anything about what post-war Germany and Japan
why does he he's not
must
exactly
do?
He's not like a statesman or like why is he even weighing in on this anyway?
Must do.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately it's already happening. Japan has a very right-wing prime minister who happens to be a woman now and she's actually now ramping up. She's now they're starting to sell lethal weapons and
I don't like that Alex Karp thinks he knows what Germany and Japan must do. Right? That's my problem.
Well, he's a brilliant man. He needs to weigh in on all this.
The culture almost snickers at Musk's interest in grand narrative, as if billionaires ought to simply stay in their lane of enriching themselves. Any curiosity or genuine interest in the value of what he has created is essentially dismissed or perhaps lurks from beneath a thinly veiled scorn.
Well, I don't think it's thinly veiled anymore. Now, listen, what is he created?
How about he's just a fucking asshole and I don't want to hear it?
He's actually worse than a fucking asshole. He's not like your gym teacher who was an asshole. He's much worse than that. But listen, there's more proof this week that he's just not what he says he is. This guy developed Grok. It was his big AI moment at one of his dumb companies. Yet another failure. No one ever talks about how their AI progress is a serious thing because the guy is, he's a middling guy. Speaking of middling, just this week is it SpaceX? One of his companies is buying an AI company for like $25 billion or something like that because. Once again, he's not the founder of Tesla.
Well, he
bought into things. He buys into things.
He put off the Tesla Roadster.
He can't figure it out.
Put that off, and he admitted that full self-driving is not accomplishable. Finally, he basically said, we don't have the hardware to accomplish full self-driving. After promising for years and stating that it's been accomplished. Right?
And why does Alex Karp think there would be thinly veiled scorn? Which again, I think is much more. It's not veiled. It's not thin. To a man who was not elected, who had no political mandate, stepped in. To a role that he didn't deserve and just willy-nilly fired good people with algorithms. He hired children with no experience to help him do that. Alex Karp doesn't understand the scorn.
He sums it up with snickers at Musk's interesting grand narrative. What we snicker at, and it's not so much snicker as get outraged at, is his big fucking lie. That is a problem. Grand narrative is a way you say lies his fucking face off.
And congratulations, Karp. You're defending Germany, Japan, and the guy from South Africa. Congratulations.
How about The ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures drives far too much talent away from government service.
Okay, don't even get me going on this one.
Isn't that a man who, for a business model, exposes private people?
Yeah. Not only that,
he sells it to the government.
But he said that right after using an example of the CEO who just went in there and just arbitrarily decimated people. Yeah.
And then finally,
not to
America,
mention, Alex, believe it or not, there are people who do things not to chase wealth. They actually believe in something, Alex. I know that is like beyond.
He's a man. Look,
your recognition of
say whatever you want about him.
He's
a man who believes in something. He believes in something.
But imagine picking a career or life passions that don't have huge paychecks. Imagine that, Alex. I know it's just like mind blowing to you.
Don't stop snickering and telling him to stay in his lane of enriching himself. Finally, we in America and more broadly the West have for the past half century resisted defining national cultures in the name of inclusivity.
So he just hates all immigrants? Is that what he's saying?
What are we doing? You know you actually know that the national culture of the United States is inclusivity. It's democracy, inclusivity, equality. It's written in there. And he is literally saying that we have resisted defining a national culture because of inclusivity. That makes no fucking sense on its face, much less the fact that it's just openly racist at some point, right? Like at some point we're just like,
not to mention if you trace back the history of the economic power of America, it has a very murderous and troubling start, not stealing people from their homes in the West, but from Africa, of course. But let's gloss over all that.
Far be it from me to tell somebody else what to do. But here's a piece of advice: if you're a white guy sitting down to thinking to yourself,
I'm sitting down.
I should write down my thoughts in some sort of manifesto. Just don't.
Please don't.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Write it in your journal and then bury your journal.
Yeah.
Finally, white guy philanthropy.
I think I know where you're going with this one. I saw a crazy headline from Bezos this morning.
Yeah, it's back-to-back headlines, okay? And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Go ahead.
Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez Bezos donate $34 million in fashion grants.
What is that? What do you mean fashion grants?
They gave $34 million from the Bezos Earth Fund to sustainable fashion.
Great. We need that. That's important.
Maybe the other headline I saw was Mackenzie Scott has donated more than $26 billion, but it's barely made a dent in her net worth because of the power of Amazon shares.
Think about that too, though.
$26 billion.
But think about donating money for sustainable fashion when your company that you got rich off is contributing to the worst fast fashion crisis ever.
It's the most backwards thing. Not to mention the fact that Mackenzie Bezos has donated as much as Netflix is buying back shares.
Don't call her Mackenzie Scott. That's her name.
Mackenzie Scott. Who's your vote?
I gotta go right to the top on this one. White guy victimhood. That Ron DeSantis is still, despite the fact that look, I don't want to jinx it, and I'm praying their power is taking a major punch in the face, but this like weird white guy MAGA movement seems to be crumbling a little bit at the moment. DeSantis just stays in that lane. You gotta love him. You gotta love this guy.
He's consistent. All right, let's do headlines, winners, predictions, and get out of here. So we can do another show right after this. Proxy Countdown.
I'm gonna go quickly. Oh, no, I'm gonna try to go quickly. I just got I had a bunch of blowhard headlines that got me going this week, and then I have something weird I want to tell you after that. Here are my blowhard headlines. I'm just going to read them without any comment. Sam Altman opens up about the Molotov cocktail attack on his home. Quote, "The way Anthropic talks about OpenAI doesn't help." NVIDIA CEO says that AI agents will make workers busier than ever. They'll harass and micromanage you instead of take your job. Oh, great.
Oh, fun.
McDonald's boss on abuse claims. I don't want to talk about the past. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says you won't lose your job to AI. you'll lose it to your coworker who uses AI.
Oh, clever.
I feel better about that. I think it's a mistake, is the quote. Delta CEO Ed Bastian refuses to call it artificial intelligence because it scares people.
Oh.
AI will boost productivity, so ServiceNow won't have to backfill open jobs, CEO says.
I didn't like any of those.
Yeah, those are my... And then I left one out, which is that Ken Griffin...
I saw that one.
Yeah, so he's calling... So the new mayor of Mamdani, who was, it was a clear victory. I mean, and talk about someone who doesn't represent just the white guys in New York. So he is trying to introduce a tax on these rich people's like other homes, and Ken Griffin has this obscene. It's like 260. I didn't even know this was possible in New York City. I used to live in New York. You used to live in New York too.
Yeah.
I think it's a penthouse. It's 25,000 square feet.
Yeah.
How?
Well. It's
your average
like bigger
home,
than the public library.
But your average home, like in my neighborhood, where people have like their own yards, is like 2,000 square feet. How is that possible?
Yeah, it's like a building worth of stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, Ken Griffin called it Mamdani, trying to fight back and get some tax money for the people, calling it shameful. So anyway, that's the last. Yeah. But I want to say this too. I'll try to go quickly. I got all excited because I thought I saw this woman named Jessica Chutter. I'm going to call her Chutter because I just like, it might not be how you pronounce it, but I was just making jokes to myself, nutter, chutter, butter, or whatever. But I thought that she was appointed to two different boards in the same week. And because I just misread things. I was going so quickly because it said Morgan Stanley biotech banker Jessica Chutter joins Tectonic board. And then I saw Tectonic Therapeutic appoint Jessica Chutter, and I just got confused. I didn't realize that therapeutic. Anyway, I made a mistake. I had built this whole story around it. I thought I was being so clever, but I was like, oh, I screwed up. So disappointed. So just for fun, I did a Google search. She actually was. A few weeks ago, she was appointed to PTC Therapeutics.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So she actually was appointed to two boards in like a week.
Jessica Chutter, getting it done.
Right? I just the whole world to me is so weird that we're not allowed to make a case with data to vote against directors. And yet, like, it's totally normal to just like throw people on board, whether they're busy or not, or whether they know what they're doing. It's just like so weird that we're not allowed to have any point of view on this.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I just think you like the name Chutter.
That's it. But I just like that. I mean, how about the fact that she was? Anyway, no one's interested. Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep mine short. Go. Apple's new CEO needs to be a cowboy, but can he with Tim Cook still there? You mentioned this headline.
Yeah, cowboy. What the hell
I just thought
about?
The cowboy part is stupid, and Tim Cook still there is stupid. Yeah,
what is making iPhones have to do with being a cowboy, and why? And again, I guess rodeos. To your point that 90% of CEOs are men. It's like it's okay still, I guess, to like refer to CEOs as cowboys.
Cowboy. Yeah, cowboy. I'm a cowboy and a maverick.
Yeah. Who wrote? Where did that article come from?
I said Yahoo, it's the biggest waste of space.
Yeah, but they aggregate. They steal. That's from. Anyway, keep going. What's your other headline?
Here's the other one. I saw this headline. I thought, oh my God, did I miss this? This is amazing. SEC imposes strict 9-year cap on independent directors.
Yeah, but other countries have SECs. I hate to tell you.
It's the Philippines.
I know. I've fallen for that a million times. I've fallen for that so many times.
It's the Philippines, and it's called the Securities and Exchange Committee in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And the only thing that gave it away was like their acting chair was somebody with a Filipino name, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. I thought it was Paul Atkins, and then I was very upset. All right, who won the
winners? Winners. I'm just sticking with Jessica Chutter.
Oh,
two board placements within a few weeks. And in the corporate world, you don't even have to be elected when you start on the board. You just start on the board, even though there are annual meetings where you
get elected.
Supposedly, investors get to weigh in. You don't have to. You get to start without the election.
I like that.
Right? Isn't that a fun quirk to the whole system? Yeah.
Well, I picked the Philippines.
Oh, good.
Because
we're both riding off our headline jokes. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the corporate boards in the Philippines will no longer be allowed to have. I looked this up. This is a real person, Edward Sylvester.
Yeah.
Who's a board member at West America Bancorp.
Okay.
He was born in 1938.
Yeah.
And he's been on the board for 47 years, and he's tagged as an independent director at West America Bancorp. The Philippines will never have that again.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how the Philippines wins. Predictions.
Nobody ever talks about Jason Bonfig again. Jason, do you even remember who Jason Bonfig is?
The new CEO of Best Buy.
Yeah, because he's a guy. He's like a bald guy. No one's gonna.
He's just a guy.
He's a white guy, so he's not gonna get any attention. No one's gonna care. What do you got?
My prediction is that Edward Sylvester, the independent director at West America Bancorp, steps down as lead independent director.
Wait, he is lead independent director?
He's the lead independent director there.
Yeah.
And takes the role of non-executive advisor to the lead independent director emeritus of West America Bancorp. Says it was the rise of AI that required him to step down for fresh blood. That's what I'm expecting.
Sounds like a joke from The Office. The non-executive advisor to the lead independent director emeritus.
Yes, and it's
Dwight
like a
Schrute.
joke that four people at CAI might think is funny. That's all we got. That's Hazelnut Rallis. I'm your analyst, Matt Mascari. We are Free Float. Come back. Momentarily, we're going to record the Proxy Countdown, so you'll get that today, too.
Yeah, if you want a more serious side to the world.
There was a shareholder primacy this week that talked about Tesla again, the issues at Tesla and the open litigation there, so go listen to that. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye.